Disillusioned conservatives come together to talk about starting a third party. Yes, I'm serious. After they berated everybody else who voted third party last year, they have come together to possibly start a third party. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. In other news, Israel and Hamas go back and forth with each other, including comparisons to Kristallnacht. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and what that could mean for the rest of us as we go forward. Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci clash about the Wuhan lab rather. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And Liz Cheney is on her way out, but she is shaming everybody who's trying to take her down with her. So, well, grab some popcorn because we're going to sit here and watch. It's all kinds of fucked up right now, but, well, that's what we do every day. So strap yourselves in and we will get through it all. Hey, 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 do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and oh goodness, what a day! It's going to be a little bit of a shorter day. I'm not going to lie. We're not having the big marathon ones, but it's just everything gets stupider and stupider as we go along here. And really, honestly, we're looking down the barrel of a war, gas shortages, lines outside gas stations, talks about $5, $10 a gallon gas. At what point is this presidency a success? Oh, wait, no, he doesn't send mean tweets. Ha 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 ha. That's what point it is here. So it's going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Am I live? Am I even going here? I'm actually a little bit curious because I show one viewer over on the tablet, over on the YouTube side. It looks like it's not connected to at least one of the chats. So I have no idea, but we're going to power through anyway because everybody knows where they can go find the replays as well. So come back, tell a friend, tell 10 friends. Let's get a bunch of people in here chatting and let's get to it. But before we get started, make sure that you guys all go over and check out all the rest of my friends on the Freedom Scoop Media Group Network. You can find great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The R-Rated Conservative, back on his new time. I've been checking him out. It's much easier with him on his new time, too. It's much easier to get in there live. So you can go check him out at 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. Go check that out over there. Otherwise, you can also check out the Freckles and Brit Show and the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. I think Freckles and Brit are on a hiatus too right now. So, but you can still check them out. You can still grab their archives over on the Freedom Scoop Media Group. We carry all those great shows. We are still under construction right now, but still, don't let that stop you from going and hanging out with my friends. They're great people, and they're a great place to go and check out the news. And once we're back up and running, we will have new openings where you can come in and help us support great creators, both financially and through merch. So, a lot of stuff going on there. Come back and hang out with us. All right, looking into the Dow. You had to expect it. You had to have expected it. The Dow is down 473.66 points yesterday because, well, you've suddenly seen a situation where shit's going to be more expensive to transport. Nobody's going to want to go on vacation. People are going to be turning off their thermostats early. Gas shortage is hard on industrials. It did look like the techs did come back up a little bit. The Nasdaq did break even a little bit, and so did the S&P 500, which is mixed. But the Dow, the industrials, just stayed all the way down throughout the day. So, well, we'll see what happens coming up on the futures as well. Looking in at your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is sitting at 56,385 US dollars and 50 US cents, holding just about steady as we look forward and see what the market's going to do. So, watch your Bitcoin there. The gas around Madison, Wisconsin, 265 is going to be your low at the race in Sun Prairie. You've got a couple other 265s. Otherwise, everywhere else is looking at 269. So we're not hurting that much here in Wisconsin. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the show as well. But yeah, as of right now, it's still expensive, but we're not hurting. It's not killing us right now. Of course, more expensive where I live, but that's a given as well. All right, let's read from the finance reports, starting with Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones futures fall as market rally awaits inflation data. Tesla sales crash in China confirmed. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures fell modestly early Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures, with the consumer price index on tap Wednesday morning after inflation fears spooked investors worldwide. On Tuesday, the stock market rally had a wild session, closing down but off intraday lows, especially in the Nasdaq. Tesla stock, Facebook, Apple, Nvidia, Roblox. There's one they haven't heard for a while. Goldman Sachs, Trex, and MarineMax are among stocks to watch, though for different reasons. Tesla remains in focus as it tries to find long-term support following surprisingly weak China sales figures, with yet more data confirming a huge decline versus March. Apple stock is also trying to rebound from long-term averages. Facebook stock and Goldman Sachs are finding support in buy zones. Trex and HZO stock pulled back but are just below buy points. Nvidia stock is finding key support after a prior breakout fizzled. Roblox stock skyrocketed following earnings as it sets up another potential IPO base. The stock market rally had a whipsaw session, with the major indices tumbling at the open. At one point, the Nasdaq was looking like a vertical violation. However, the tech-heavy index, which was lagging in recent days and for the past few months, slashed losses. So did the small-cap Russell 2000, the Dow Jones, and the S&P 500 index were laggards on Tuesday, but aren't far from record highs. Goldman Sachs is on Swing Trader. HZO is on the IBD 50. Apple stock and Goldman are Dow Jones components. The Labor Department releases April Consumer Price Index at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Economists expect the CPI to show a 0.2% gain versus March. Core CPI, excluding food and energy, which is going up much faster than everything else, is forecast to rise 0.3%. Year over year, the CPI should pop about 3.6%, with core CPI up 2.3%. That include easy comparisons to April 2020, when the global economy slammed on the brakes due to the pandemic and related shutdowns, sending energy prices plunging. The Producer Price Index, far more sensitive to soaring commodity prices, is due out Thursday morning. Still, rising goods prices are starting to filter into the economy, with many companies citing looming margin pressures. Massive government spending, with President Biden pushing another $4 trillion in two packages, is turbocharging economic growth. No, he's not. Along with rapid post-pandemic global recovery. The Federal Reserve expects inflation to accelerate in 2021, then cool off again. The concern is that higher inflation will not be temporary, forcing policymakers to step in, first by tapering bond buys, and eventually higher interest rates. Keep in mind that the Fed's favorite inflation gauge, the core PCE deflator, relies heavily on housing prices. While home prices are rising sharply, owner's equivalent rent is not. Yeah, that's because nobody can be evicted right now. So everyone's just fucking hunkering down. Meanwhile, tame medical costs are helping to control overall inflation, even as Americans feel the pinch at the gas station and the grocery store. On the futures, Dow futures fell 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures sank 0.4%. Nasdaq 100 futures retreated 0.6%. Russell 2000 futures slumped 1%. So that was probably painful. Investors are wary heading into the April CPI report. The spread of the Indian coronavirus variant may have weighed slightly on Dow futures. Really. It's the spread of the Indian coronavirus variant and not the fact that there are gas stations all up and down the coast, on the East Coast, that are out of fucking gas. Thousands of them. The Colonial Pipeline, largely shut down since Friday in response to a cyber attack, may make the decision to restart operations on Wednesday. The nation's largest gasoline pipeline supplies the East Coast from the Gulf Coast refiners. Gasoline shortages are spreading across eastern states. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So a lot of stuff to look at when we look into the markets here, but it does look like it's going to come back down. Yet for another day, which, I mean, when you look at where all the gas shortages are and the fact that the economy is moving that direction, keep in mind, the economy is moving down to those East Coast southern states. The Rust Belt is no longer up here in the Midwest anymore. So we will see what happens with that. Let's grab one here from NBC for you guys. Dow futures slipped more than 100 points after blue chip benchmark's worst day since February. From Yoon Lee and Maggie Fitzgerald. U.S. stock futures declined early trading Wednesday following the Dow's worst day since February, as investors dumped tech shares again. Dow futures fell more than 111 points, while S&P 500 futures traded 0.4% lower, and NASDAQ 100 futures lost 0.6%. Tech shares, which have been under pressure this week and this month, were falling again in the pre-market. On Wednesday, shares of Alphabet, Microsoft, Netflix, Facebook, and Apple all traded in the red, while shares of chipmakers Nvidia and AMD were also lower in the pre-market. Good. Hopefully that'll hold some of the prices down. Shares tied to the reopening also fell in the pre-market. Carnival Corp, Boeing, and United Airlines were lower in pre-market trading. The tech sector pulled off a big intraday reversal in the previous session, where the NASDAQ composite erased a loss north of 2% and ended the day flat. The blue chip Dow, however, lost more than 450 points to suffer its worst day since February. The S&P 500 slipped 0.9% but avoided its second straight 1% loss. The tech sector, SPDR, is off by more than 1% this week and 3% this month as investors reassess the group's high valuations in the face of rising inflation. Key inflation data will be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. April's Consumer Price Index is expected to grow 0.2% from the previous month, representing a 3.6% jump since last year, according to the Dow Jones estimates. This jump in the headline Consumer Price Index would be the largest since September of 2011. Really, honestly, looking at this and looking at everything else that's happening here, especially after we saw the jobs reports last week, I would not be surprised in the least to find out that the inflation index far overshot what their expectations were. Now, I don't know. It's just happening right now, so if somebody wants to throw it in the chat and see what's going on with that, let me know. I'll go over there and check it in. So that's what we have going on in the markets. Let's go back and look at what's going on in the big news of the day. Starting with the New York Times, a former newspaper. Over 100 Republicans, including former officials, threaten to split from GOP. From Zach Montag. More than 100 Republicans, including some former elected officials, are preparing to release a letter this week threatening to form a third party. Ooh, third party, but I thought those were evil and bad, and all those were going to do was get the evil socialists elected. Fucking war pigs. If the Republican Party does not make certain changes, according to an organizer of the effort. The statement is expected to take aim at former President Donald J. Trump's stranglehold on Republicans, which signatories to the document have deemed unconscionable. When, in our democratic republic, forces of conspiracy, division, and despotism arise, it is the patriotic duty of citizens to act collectively in defense of liberty and justice. Read the preamble to the full statement, which is expected to be released on Thursday. The effort comes as House Republican leaders are expected on Wednesday to oust Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming from their ranks because of her outspoken criticism of Mr. Trump's election lies. Oh, fucking puke. Of course this dribble is coming from the New York Times, a former newspaper. Of course that's what they're going to fucking do. Fucking war pigs. Good. Get rid of all these fucking war pigs. Let them go run a third party and then get voted out of their seats. Let somebody else come in here. Fuck these miserable fucking war pig assholes. And the New York Times, a former newspaper that holds their fucking war pig asshole asses up. This is a first step, said Miles Taylor, an organizer of the effort and a former Trump-era Department of Homeland Security official who anonymously wrote a book condemning the Trump administration in October. Mr. Taylor acknowledged he was the author of both the book and a 2018 New York Times op-ed article. Big fucking shock there. This is us saying that a group of more than 100 prominent Republicans think that the situation has gotten so dire with the Republican Party that it is now time to seriously consider whether an alternative might be the only option, he said. The list of people signing the statement includes former government officials at both the state and national level who once were governors, members of Congress, ambassadors, cabinet secretaries, state legislators, and Republican Party chairman, Mr. Taylor said. Mr. Taylor declined to name the signers. Reuters reported earlier that the former governors, Tom Ridge of Pennsylvania and Christine Todd Whitman of New Jersey, will sign it, as will former Transportation Secretary Mary E. Peters and former Representatives Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania, Barbara Comstock of Virginia, Reed Ribble of Wisconsin, and Mickey Edwards of Oklahoma. Oh, but your third party is scary. Dude, I host a program with the former social media director for the Jorgensen campaign. I cannot wait until Monday to put this article down in front of her and say, hey, this is what Republicans think of third parties now. What do you think of that? And yes, I will admit that I voted Republican last time. I become less and less happy with it as each day passes, but just these war pigs in fucking Washington, that's all they want to do. Hold up the old guard, do the exact same thing as these stupid fucking neoliberals do, and go back to war in the fucking Middle East, which we're about to do anyway. So, good. Get rid of these fucking people. Get rid of them. All right, let's grab one here. Speaking of which, I just wanted to start off on that one because we have so many people who are interested in third parties that usually watch this program. Let's grab one here from the AP. Escalating Mideast violence bears hallmarks of 2014 Gaza war, from Baris Akram and Joseph Kraus. Rockets streamed out of Gaza, and Israel pounded the territory with airstrikes early Wednesday as the most severe outbreak of violence since the 2014 war took on many hallmarks of that devastating 50-day conflict with no endgame in sight. Gaza's Hamas rulers and other militant groups have fired barrages of hundreds of rockets that at times have overwhelmed Israel's missile defense systems, causing air raid sirens and explosions to echo across Tel Aviv, Israel's biggest metropolitan area, and other cities. Israeli airstrikes have leveled 2 apartment towers in the Gaza Strip, where 2 million Palestinians have lived under a crippling Israeli-Egyptian blockade since Hamas took power in 2007. Warning shots have allowed civilians to evacuate the building, but the material losses will be immense. Israel faced heavy criticism over the tactic during the 2014 war. Just after daybreak on Wednesday, Israel unleashed dozens of airstrikes in the course of a few minutes. Targeting police and security installations, witnesses said, a wall of dark gray smoke rose over Gaza City. The Hamas-run Interior Ministry and airstrikes destroyed the Central Police Headquarters in Gaza City, a compound with several buildings. The death toll in Gaza rose to 43 Palestinians, including 13 children and 3 women, according to the Health Ministry. Nearly 300 people have been wounded, including 86 children and 39 women. 6 Israelis, including 3 women and a child, were killed by rocket fire Tuesday and early Wednesday, and dozens of people were wounded. An AP journalist at a hospital in Gaza City saw 5 dead and 7 wounded, including women, from an Israeli airstrike that hit a car in the city. Meanwhile, Gaza militants fired an anti-tank missile across the border, killing an Israeli and wounding 2 others, who were evacuated under fire, according to Eli Bien, head of the Magen David Adom Emergency Services. It was not immediately clear if they were soldiers or civilians. The Israeli military said militants have fired more than 1050 rockets since the conflict began, with 200 of them falling short and landing inside Gaza. The military said it also shot down a drone that entered Israel from Gaza. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, a military spokesman, said 2 infantry brigades were sent to the area, indicating preparations for a possible ground invasion. There is so much going on with this. There is so much to talk about with what's happening with this. And, once again, the morning stream, we usually just do headlines and a little bit of news and go with this. But it's really starting to be telling within the U.S., and I'm actually a little bit nervous looking at this and looking at some of the reactions to this, that this might be the catalyst to a U.S. civil war. Well, that and all the 10,000 other fucking catalysts that we've seen for the last 3 or 4 years. Because, people are balkanizing left and right, and it seems that the reaction, especially whose side you're on, looking at what's going on in Israel right now, also seems to be a balkanizing factor. There are people who love Palestine and want to see Palestine advance and think that Israel is the ultimate evil. And trust me, there are a lot of people that I know that are on the right that also think that Israel is the ultimate evil, but they tend to read publications like the Daily Stormer, so keep that in mind as you're addressing these people. But, of course, we've got our friends in government, especially in the neocon right, like the stupid fucking Liz Cheneys of the world, who think that Israel is in the right and that they're just playing the defensive position. I'm going to come right out and say this. I've looked at the stories left and right. I've looked at the Associated Press, the New York Times, a former newspaper. I've looked at Fox News. I've looked at the Daily Wire. I've looked at the Blaze. I've looked at the entire spectrum. I don't know who started this fight because everybody's hunkered down in their position at this point. If you read the Blaze, the Daily Wire, Fox News, Zero American News, or the Epoch Times, it was Palestine and Hamas. They started the fight. They totally started the fight. And if you read CIANN, MSDNC, the Associated Press, The Hill is shit, and the New York Times, a former newspaper, it's totally Israel. Israel's the aggressors. There's nothing objective in here. Looking back, stretching back, it actually does look like Israel may be the aggressor in this one because of eviction notices that were coming back out. But there was also an escalating tension as far as the Al-Aqsa Mosque because they tried to paint that as just a peaceful thing, but it wasn't. It was anything but peaceful. It was a riot. And it was a riot reacting to the evictions, but there may be something that goes back further than the evictions. It does look like, from all the objective reporting that I found, or what little bit of objective reporting there is, that Israel is the aggressor of this side. But I cannot say that for certain. Because, well, nobody's going to give you an objective timeline and breakdown of what happened here. They're going to stop where it's convenient for them and their narrative that they're pushing forward. Meanwhile, people are dying left and fucking right. And people like me, who are generally anti-war, are looking at this, looking at the fact that, well, our current president, when he did have a brain, has never seen a military action in the Middle East that he didn't like. So, hey, we might stay in the Middle East forever at this point. Hey, you remember last year when it looked like we were getting out of Afghanistan? Now we might not even fucking do that. So, that's what we have going on over there. We got some more stuff to talk about here. I've got one from the BBC for you guys. Israel declares emergency in Lod as unrest spreads. Cars were set alight, and a father and daughter, both Israeli Arabs, died when a rocket from Gaza hit their car. Palestinian militants fired hundreds of rockets deep into Israel, while Israel carried out heavy airstrikes on Gaza. At least 40 people have died in some of the worst violence in years. Israel's military says it's targeting militants in Gaza in response to rocket attacks on Jerusalem in other areas. More than 100 rockets have been fired towards the central and southern Israel by Palestinian militants since Monday evening, when hostilities suddenly escalated and the Israeli army said. The Palestinian militants said they targeted the Israel city of Tel Aviv after an Israeli airstrike demolished a tower block in the Gaza Strip on Tuesday. A second tower block collapsed in the territory after another Israeli strike. Residents were warned to evacuate the 12-story Al-Jahara tower. However, health officials say there were still civilian deaths. More than 200 rockets were fired at Tel Aviv and Beersheba after the tower attack, Palestinian militants said. The fighting came after weeks of rising tensions that were stoked by violent confrontations between Israeli police and Palestinian protesters at a site in Jerusalem that is holy to both Muslims and Jews. The international community has urged both sides to end the escalation. The UN's Middle East peace envoy, Tor Wennesland, said they were escalating towards a full-scale war. Well, they've been doing that for a lot of years. They've been doing that ever since their last full-scale war. At least 35 Palestinians, including 10 children and 5 Israelis, have been killed in the violence so far, according to health officials and medics. Protests by Israeli Arabs broke out in Lod, a city near Tel Aviv, and escalated to full-scale rioting with protesters throwing rocks at police, who responded with stun grenades. The protest followed the funeral of an Israeli Arab man who died during unrest in the city a day earlier. At least 12 people were injured in the clashes, Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported. As night fell, the situation denigrated in Lod, police said. On Wednesday morning, a 52-year-old father and his 16-year-old daughter were killed when a rocket fired from Gaza hit their car, also seriously injuring the mother, according to the Times of Israel. Israeli media reported that synagogues and several businesses had been set on fire, while Reuters news agency said there were reports of Jews stoning a car that was being driven by an Arab resident. On Tuesday night, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared a state of emergency in Lod. Israeli border police have been brought in from the West Bank, the Times of Israel said it was the first time the government had used emergency powers over an Arab community since 1966. The conflict between the Israeli military and the Palestinian militants in Gaza has stirred unrest among the Arab minority inside Israel, leading to protests. So, yeah, there's that going on over in Lod. Let's grab one from The Blaze talking about what's happening in Lod once again. This is Kristallnacht. Palestinians continue attack on Israelis with rockets, street violence. From Brek Dumas. Hamas militants continued their barrage of rocket fire in Israel on Tuesday, and the violence escalated in the streets to the point that the mayor of one Israeli town called for help and likened the attacks to the Nazi pogrom against the German Jews, declaring, "This is Kristallnacht." The mayor of the central Israeli city of Lod called for the nation's prime minister to declare a state of emergency amid attacks by Islamists, the Time of Israel reported. "This is Kristallnacht in Lod," said Mayor Yair Ravivo. "I've called on the Prime Minister to declare a state of emergency in Lod, to call in the Israeli Defense Forces to impose a curfew, to restore quiet. There is a failure of governance. This is a giant incident. Intifada of Arab Israelis. All the work we have done here for years on coexistence has gone down the drain." Ravivo went on to say, "All of Israel should know this is a complete loss of control. This is unthinkable. Synagogues are being burned, hundreds of cars set alight, hundreds of Arab thugs are roaming the streets, civil war has erupted in Lod. Orthodox nationalist community here has guns. I'm imploring them to go back home, but understandably they want to protect their homes. Petrol bombs are being thrown into Jewish homes. The situation is incendiary." The New York Post reported that Hamas fired 130 rockets on Tuesday, just at the city of Tel Aviv alone, which has the population of nearly 500,000 people. Video posted online shows Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepting the rockets. Newsmax foreign correspondent Alex Salvi tweeted the footage. Imagine the carnage if these 150 rockets landed in Tel Aviv, population of 450,000. Let's have a watch. You know, that would actually be kind of impressive to watch if it wasn't sitting down on the fact that any one of those things could fall back down to the earth and tear your ass apart. But Israel has been fighting back. The IDF announced Tuesday that they killed the commander of the Hamas anti-tank missile unit, Iyad Fathi Baik Sharir, who was in charge of carrying out anti-tank missile attacks on Israel. The IDF added, "Our aircraft are currently striking additional terror targets in Gaza." IDF says, "We just killed the commander of the Hamas anti-tank missile unit. He was in charge of carrying out the anti-tank missile attacks on Israel. Our aircraft are currently striking additional terror targets in Gaza." Reuters reported over the past 2 days, 30 Palestinians, including children, and 3 Israelis, all women, have been killed in the attacks from both sides. I feel like that's a lowball number. I feel like that's a really lowball number. Meanwhile, the escalation overseas has poured into the U.S. Videos circulated online Tuesday showing fights breaking out in New York City between pro-Israel and pro-Palestine protesters over the conflict. Yeah, like I said, this might be the catalyst that pushes us into the other direction and pushes us into a civil war, because we're seeing stuff like that happen over here. Let's grab one from the Hill. Videos of rockets from Gaza hitting Israel's Iron Dome go viral. From Celine Castro Nuovo. The Israeli Defense Force on Tuesday announced that its Iron Dome defense system has intercepted hundreds of rockets over Tel Aviv fired by Hamas, the latest in days of back-and-forth attacks in the area. Footage shared by the IDF on Twitter appeared to show the Iron Dome overwhelmed by rockets launched from the Gaza Strip, which set off sirens across the city and forced the main international airport to close, according to the Associated Press. I think this is the one we just watched. Yeah. That's the one we just watched. Once again, it would probably be really, really impressive if I knew that one of those getting missed would probably be the last thing that I saw. Let's grab another video. Intercepted terrorists recently fired another barrage of rockets from Gaza towards the Israeli city of Ashkelon. We intercepted the rockets with the Iron Dome aerial defense system and are now striking Hamas terror targets. Was it lost on anybody else that somebody's iPhone started ringing in the middle of that? The AP reported that one of the rockets hit a bus in Holon, a city just south of Tel Aviv, injuring at least 4 people, including a 5-year-old girl. Other reports from the Times of Israel noted that a woman was killed after a rocket strike in Rishon LeZion, south of Tel Aviv, and several others have been injured from the rockets. The escalation is considered to be some of the most intense fighting between Israel and Hamas, a U.S.-designated terrorist organization, since the 2014 war. According to the Associated Press, Hamas said that it had launched a total of 130 rockets in response to Israeli forces, the destruction of a 13-story building in Gaza earlier in the day. The video footage, initially shared earlier Tuesday by a reporter for Israel's public broadcasting network, CAN, the sound of an explosion can be heard from, before the building starts to collapse as dark smoke erupts from it. Oh, that one's going to make me go look at the different tweet. Jerks. Gee, I wonder what their motivation could be. They're shouting, God is great, in Arabic. I wonder what their motivation could be. So, we see that. Alright, I got another one here from the Daily Wire, but I think we've seen most of the videos for this, so we'll just kind of skim over this one and see if any of the video is new. But this is, watch Israel's Iron Dome strikes down scores of rockets fired by Hamas. Israel's Iron Dome intercepted scores of rockets from Hamas on Tuesday night as the Palestinian terrorist organization continued to launch attacks against Israeli citizens. Terrorists have fired more than 1,050 rockets at Israel since the fighting broke out a couple days ago, which has resulted in the deaths of at least 5 people inside Israel, with more than 100 injured. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, explained how the Iron Dome works. First put into service in 2011, it's designed to stop short-range rockets and artillery, like those fired from Gaza. 2 separate systems, known as David's Sling and Arrow, are designed for medium and long-range threats, including planes, drones, rockets, and missiles. Iron Dome relies on a system of radar and analysis to determine whether an incoming rocket is a threat, firing an interceptor only if the incoming rocket risks hitting a populated area or important infrastructure. The interceptors, which are fired vertically from either mobile units or a static launch site, are designed to detonate the incoming rocket in the air, producing the explosions in the sky that have come to accompany warning sirens during recent Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. I think this is a new one. Let's check this one. Once again, pretty impressive to see if it wasn't for the fact that just one miss from this could be the last thing that you ever saw. This one we've seen. I recognize the tree line in this one. This one I think we saw. More amazing Iron Dome footage from Ashkelon earlier today. No, I haven't seen this one. And the rocket's red glare. Probably not the best time. So, that's some of the video of some of the stuff that's happening out there, which, I mean, given the fact, especially that we're seeing some of the stuff going into populated areas on both sides, I'm glad that to see the Iron Dome defense system going and protecting the innocent people off of this. I know the military people need protection too, but they're also signing up to go into the midst of this. The women and the children. Why are we attacking them? But yeah, we're going to see a lot more of this. Let's talk about Andrew Yang, because I know I've got at least one viewer who hails from the city of New York. Andrew Yang's Israel support sees our New Yorkers turn on him, not to. Hey, if I keep stuttering, man, I'll just say that I had a childhood stutter, and now I can be president, man. Andrew Yang's Israel support sees our New Yorkers turn on him, not fit to be our mayor, from Ewan Palmer. Andrew Yang has been criticized for showing support for Israel amid bombardment attacks from Hamas while failing to acknowledge the recent violence against Palestinians in Jerusalem and the West Bank. Yang, a 2020 Democratic candidate for president who is now running for mayor of New York, said he's standing with Israel after the Palestinian militants fired rockets from Gaza early Tuesday morning as Israel unleashed new airstrikes which left 24 people dead, including 9 children. Israel has denied the claims, saying they killed 15 Hamas fighters and that 6 Israeli civilians were hurt by the retaliating rocket fire. I'm standing with the people of Israel who are coming under bombardment attacks and condemn the Hamas terrorists, Yang tweeted. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. That was probably a mistake, given where you're trying to be the mayor right now. The people of New York City will always stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel who face down terrorism and persevere. This might be a worse take than the bodega take. The attacks came after escalating violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the heart of Jerusalem's walled Old City, which is the third holiest site in Islam and the holiest site of Judaism. Israeli armed forces stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Monday, firing rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, and sound bombs at the Palestinian worshippers during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, leaving hundreds injured. There have also been rising tensions in recent weeks over the planned eviction of dozens of Palestinians from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem. Yang has now been condemned for showing support for Israel amid attacks on Hamas, the Islamist militant group that has ruled Gaza since 2007, including from those living in the city where he hopes to become mayor. Comedian and podcast host Katie Halper wrote, I'm native Jewish New Yorker whose family died fighting fascists in Spain and Nazis in Poland, and I'm standing with the people of Palestine who are under illegal dehumanizing occupation, and I condemn Israel's terrorist regime. National security and foreign policy reporter Murtaza M. Hussein tweeted in response to Yang, why not say something expressing the desire for both innocent Israelis and Palestinians to be able to live safely and freely? This thing pretending where one side of the conflict are not human or doesn't exist is completely insupportable. Yeah, read the room, Andrew. Read the room. So, we've got that going. The Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, decided that she needed to weigh in on this one here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hits Yang over scrapped EID event, utterly shameful. From Celine Castronovo. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Honorable and Venerable D-Twitch, on Tuesday, criticized New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang for initially scheduling a campaign event around the Muslim celebration of Eid after tweeting a message in support of Israel amid ongoing violence in the Middle Eastern country. In his initial tweet Monday evening, Yang wrote that he was standing with the people of Israel who are coming under bombardment attacks and condemned the Hamas terrorists. The people of New York City will always stand with their brothers and sisters in Israel who face down terrorism and persevere, he wrote. On Tuesday, the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, who has largely remained silent on Democrats vying for the New York City mayor's office, in spite of the fact that she lives there, she's a politician and could be a fucking kingmaker, but that also shows that she's not really being a representative of New York, she's trying to be a representative of the entire country. responded to the video of Yang saying that organizers of a grocery distribution event in the Queens neighborhood of Astoria ahead of Eid asked the former Democratic presidential candidate not to attend. Utterly shameful for Yang to try and show up at an Eid event after sending out a chest-thumping statement in support for a strike killing 9 children. Okay, puppy? Especially after his silence on Al-Aqsa was attacked, the congresswoman wrote. But then to try that in Astoria during Ramadan? They will let you know, she added. Hi, puppy. I don't even know what this video is. Let's have a video. And once again, we're going to make a new window for or a new tab for this. I just wanted to watch the video.
The organizers of the event decided it would be better if we did not attend, and we were happy to abide by their wishes.
Relating to what you tweeted about Israel?
I believe so. You know, I'm not sure, but I believe so.
Dude, I'm sorry. Andrew Yang doesn't have a fucking clue. But Andrew Yang really does represent what the Progressive Party has become in order to try and get votes. I have no idea what the real issue is, but have some free money! Yay! I love bodegas! That's Andrew Yang. Oh, here's more video. Let's watch this one too. This one looks entertaining.
So that, what do you have to say about your tweet directly to New Yorkers right now?
It's heartbreaking. All of this is happening in the Middle East. It's heartbreaking, right? It is.
Dude, take the fucking stupid mask off so people can hear you.
Do you condemn Israel for that? Do you condemn Israel for their unjust acts against the innocent Palestinians? Sir, I'm talking to
We got
him.
the publicist over here. We got
I'm
the guys
talking
over
to
here
him.
saying,
We gotta go.
don't say anything
Sir,
that's
you're
gonna fuck up
touching
your
me. Please
campaign.
don't
And
touch
that's
me.
why you don't have my vote, and I guarantee you don't have the vote of a lot of New Yorkers.
Sir, I have just one question.
So that, what do you have to say about your
Well, that's what happens. All right, let's grab another one here. I've got from Insider. Republicans like Ted Cruz and Stephen Miller are cheering on Andrew Yang after he posted a pro-Israel tweet amid violent clashes with Palestinians. From Ashley Coleman. Andrew Yang tweeted in support of Israel amid the country's latest unrest with Palestinians on Monday, provoking anger from fellow liberals and support from top Republicans. Yang, a Democrat who is running to be mayor of New York City, tweeted late Monday that he was standing with the people of Israel, who were coming under bombardment attacks. He condemned Hamas terrorists, referring to the Palestinian militant group that controls the Gaza Strip. The people of New York City will always stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel who face down terrorism and persevere, Yang tweeted. Many found Yang's pro-Israel statement distasteful, including the comedian David Cross, who tweeted, "Nope," in response. The U.S. military whistleblower, Chelsea Manning, also tweeted, "Yikes." Bishop Talbert Swan, president of the Springfield, Massachusetts chapter of the NAACP, said, "The systemic oppression, institutional discrimination, and violent persecution of Palestinians are crimes against humanity. It is wicked, evil, and humane." The hashtag Yang supports genocide also trended overnight. But Yang's tweet also earned him praise from Republicans who traditionally support a strong relationship between the U.S. and Israel. Oh, if Midget B was watching right now. You'd see lots of stars of David in the chat if Midget B was watching right now. Trust me on that. Bravo to Yang for opposing the rapidly pro-Hamas and anti-Israel attacks from fellow Dems. Omar N. Tlaib, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, tweeted in response to Yang's tweet referring to the progressive reps Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who both voiced support for Palestinians amid the renewed violence. Stephen Miller, who worked as a senior advisor to former President Trump, tweeted that Yang was exactly right, while Meghan McCain retweeted Yang's tweet with the hashtag YangGang. Yeah. When Meghan McCain is on your side, you were probably in the wrong. Just so you know. And honestly, when Stephen Miller was on your side, you were probably in the wrong as well. I like Ted Cruz. I think he is an all right dude. But when Meghan McCain is tweeting out in support of you, you were probably in the wrong. Give that just a second, because I think we just locked up the connection. Yeah, we did. Everything stopped. I don't even know if you guys can hear me right now, but everything just stopped for a second. So let's get that back up and running here. Come on. Are we going again? Or are we losing frames left and right? We're going again. I see some red. I see some red. Bring it back. Bring it back. Oh yeah, we're back up. All right, let's keep going. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about something else. Yeah, it buffered on my end. That was on my end, Shalaka, not yours. All right, from the New York Post. Senator Rand Paul wants Fauci to come clean about the U.S. ties to the Wuhan lab. Wuhan! White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci, hallowed be his name, is not being fully forthcoming about links between the federal agency that he directs and the Wuhan, China lab from which COVID-19 may have originated. Senator Rand Paul said on Tuesday. Fauci and Paul had butted heads earlier in the day during a Senate committee hearing, during which Fauci forcefully denied that the National Institutes of Health or the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases had funded so-called gain-of-function research by the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's not true, Paul told Fox News Primetime. There's a famous scientist in the Wuhan lab. Her name is Dr. Shi Zhengli, and she published a paper a couple years ago, which has been reviewed by MIT, and that says it's a gain-of-function research, Paul said. But in that byline, she has to list the sponsors. She lists Dr. Fauci and the NIAID as a sponsor of her research, which everyone acknowledges is gain-of-function research, juicing up these super viruses. So I don't know how you got around this. If this is a super virus, then it's all like all the rest of the crap that's made in China. It works really, really well about 10% of the fucking time. This is not a super virus. Cotton similarly told Fox News' The Ingram Angle that Fauci was being deliberately evasive and playing word games with the American people in the hearing. Newsweek reported last year that at the beginning of 2014, NIH funded research by Xi and others into bat coronaviruses to the tune of $3.7 million. Beginning in 2019, Newsweek reported NIH and NIAID committed another $3.7 million to a 6-year research program that included some gain-of-function work. The second phase of the research was overseen by the nonprofit EcoHealth Alliance. So those two got into it. I think the Blaze actually has video about this, so let's read briefly from here and then watch the video. Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci, hallowed be his name, clash against the NIH funding for the Wuhan lab and virus leak theory. From Chris Pandolfo, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Director Dr. Anthony Fauci, hallowed be his name, denied that the National Institutes... I think my headphones are going to die soon. Denied that the National Institutes of Health have ever funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the Chinese lab that became the focus of intense scrutiny at the onset of the commie-fucking coup, during yet another heated back and forth with Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Fauci appeared Tuesday before the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions to testify on the ongoing pandemic response. When it was his turn to ask questions, Paul grilled Fauci on the NIH funding for bioresearch in Wuhan, China, and the possibility that the novel coronavirus that caused the current global pandemic was a product of gain-of-function research that leaked from the lab. Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding the NIH funding on the lab in Wuhan? Paul asked. Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect, Fauci retorted. The NIH has not ever and does not now fund the gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute. Gain of function research involves genetically enhancing viral pathogens in order to predict which may become especially dangerous to the human population. The research is controversial because of the risk of the virus found naturally occurring in animals that is modified to be able to infect humans could accidentally or deliberately be released and cause a pandemic. So they're going back and forth. Let's see if we can find some video of this. I thought it was in here. Maybe it got cut. Or maybe I'm just going to lock up the browser again. Who knows? Hopefully we're still live. We'll give that a second because I might be buffering once again. Come on, you can do it. There you go. Oh, we didn't lose any frames, but oh, my browser isn't working, so that's where we sit. Am I buffering? Are we still going? Are we still live? All right. Let's figure that out. It's time for a new computer, guys. Hey, there are links in the description. Throw me a tip if you feel that you can help me out. Oh, there's the video. Let's watch the video, shall we? And then I'm going to grab a different pair of headphones.
Senator Paul.
Dr. Fauci, we don't know whether the pandemic started in a lab in Wuhan or evolved naturally, but we should want to know. 3 million people have died from this pandemic, and that should cause us to explore all possibilities. Instead, government authorities, self-interested in continuing gain-of-function research, say there's nothing to see here. Gain-of-function research, as you know, is juicing up naturally occurring animal viruses to infect humans. To arrive at the truth, the U.S. government should admit that the Wuhan Virology Institute was experimenting to enhance the coronavirus's ability to infect humans. Juicing up superviruses is not new. Scientists in the U.S. have long known how to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Baric, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology. The collaboration between the U.S. and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Baric and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus, and then used this man-made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of
Dr.
Virology.
Baric?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Baric's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
You don't think
in
inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would be
not-
in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that
So
They
do
write
you still
about it.
support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan
Do you
Virology
support
Institute.
sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see who might have been
Or
infected.
perhaps it would be
in China.
irresponsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor
maintain
gain-of-function research
that
in
the
China.
disease
You are
arose
saying
naturally.
things.
I don't favor gain of function research, but somehow they gained the function, and we were sending money over there. Dude, I look at this whole Wuhan thing, and I know which way the tinfoilers go, because one of them happens to be one of my best friends. But really, honestly, all the indicators are pointing that direction. It's hard to look at this and say, no, this is absolutely not happening. So that's how those two went back and forth with it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think they did it, or you think they didn't? Got another one here that came from Yahoo News out of the UK. That came out of my Discord. Remember, you see the link in the chat for the Discord, or it's in the description on all the platforms. You can go hang out in the Discord, or the Gilded, by the way, and come and put documents in there for me to read and look over. I actually missed one from the Gilded. I'll have to do it tomorrow. Arvolt put one in the Gilded, and I did see it. I looked at it, and I said, I'm going to put this in. And then come this morning, I didn't open up the Gilded on the computer. I just opened it up on my phone. So I don't have it in the stack today, unfortunately, but I will get it up in the stack, because you can do it on the Gilded too. And we do want to build a Gilded community, but not everybody has Gilded. Most everybody has Discord, because all the mainstream stuff has started Discord servers, but not everybody has Gilded, and we should try to change that. And I need to do better too, because I need to use the Gilded more. China plays down leaked documents showing it discussed weaponizing coronavirus in 2015. From Namita Singh. China has attempted to play down the so-called leaked documents, which have been used to suggest that scientists discussed the weaponization of coronavirus 5 years before the commie fucking coup began. While officials have yet to issue a statement on the matter, the state-run Global Times newspaper lashed out at The Australian for their report, calling it an embarrassing article that smears China over the origins of the commie coup. Earlier on Friday, The Australian published a news report based on a leaked document titled The Unnatural Origins of SARS and New Species of Man-Made Viruses as Genetic Bioweapons. Written by a Chinese scientist and health officials in 2015, the paper reportedly argued that coronaviruses are a new era of genetic weapons that could be artificially manipulated into an emerging human disease virus, then weaponized and unleashed in a way never seen before. The document was originally obtained by the U.S. State Department in its probe into the origins of the commie coup, and is reported to be a part of the upcoming investigative book, What Really Happened in Wuhan, by Australian journalist Shari Markson. But a report in the Global Times argued that the leaked document mentioned by The Australian was in fact a book pointing to an item under the same title published by military doctor Xu Dezhong and listed on sale at Amazon, though currently out of stock. No way! The Chinese state outlet quoted Chen Hong, a professor and director at the Australian Studies Center in East China, Normal University, as saying that while the book is an academic inquiry into bioterrorism and the possibilities of viruses being used in warfare, the Australian deliberately misinterpreted it. Well, there's enough there that I have questions. I don't know if that's what actually happened or not, because I wasn't in the lab. But I do have questions, and this is enough to make me at least say, hey, maybe we should at least take a look at this. If we're wrong, we're wrong, but I would take a look at this if it was me. All right, let's talk about the fuel situation. Maybe. From Fox 5 out of New York, more than 1,000 gas stations run out of fuel. From AP staff, more than 1,000 gas stations in the Southeast report running out of fuel, primarily because of what analysts say is unwarranted panic buying among drivers as the shutdown of a major pipeline by a gang of hackers entered its 5th day on Tuesday. Government officials acted swiftly to waive safety and environmental rules to speed the delivery of fuel by truck, ship, or rail to motorists in airports, even as they sought to assure the public that there was no cause for alarm. The Colonial Pipeline, the biggest fuel pipeline in the U.S., delivering about 45% of what is consumed on the East Coast, was hit on Friday with a cyber attack by hackers who lock up computer systems and demand a ransom to release them. The attack raised concerns once again about the vulnerability of the nation's critical infrastructure. A large part of the pipeline resumed operations manually late Monday, and Colonial anticipates the restarting of most of its operations by the end of the week, the U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said. Motorists may still feel a crunch because it takes a few days to ramp up operations, but she said there is no reason to hoard gasoline. Please stop hoarding gasoline because why the fuck not? I would. I'm not going to lie to you. If we're sitting in a situation where we might be out of fuel, I'm going to throw as much fucking fuel as I can into the vehicle because you don't know when it's going to come back. And we don't know what's going on. They've been very, very secretive about what's going on in this particular situation. So, yeah, I wouldn't. I would definitely hoard it. Why the fuck not? If you can pay for it. We know that we have gasoline, we just have to get it to the right places, she said. S&P's Oil Price Information Service put the number of gas stations encountering shortages at more than 1,000. A lot of that is because they're selling 3 or 4 times as much gasoline that they normally sell in a given day. Because people do panic, said Tom Closa, an analyst with S&P. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, it's not just that. I mean, you look at some of these situations as well. An emergency pops up. Now, a lot of people will go out there and, I'm actually guilty of this, especially with as short of a drive as I have to work now. I'm absolutely guilty of this. I'll let that tank run out. Occasionally I'll fill up and occasionally I'll just throw $20 in because it does take, when I'm sitting here doing a 40-hour-a-week job plus doing this, every second of my day counts. So there are a lot of times where I'll just go in and throw a 20 in my truck, which in a 30-gallon tank with gas at almost $3 a gallon is negligible. But there are times, just for the time that it saves me, I'll throw $20 in there and get on with my day and go back and throw another 20 in like 10 days later. There are times that I'll do that. It happens from time to time. But once you're sitting here and you realize that there is a shortage and you might have to go searching for a gas station that actually has gas, yes, I would go out and fill up every vehicle I had just to make sure that if somebody falls, breaks a leg. Now, they have diesel, so the ambulances can still get there, but your wife goes into labor. You have to go out and find food. You have to evacuate because there's a bomb coming to your fucking city. Anything out there. I would like to have a full tank of gas. When I know that the convenience is not there for me to be able to go and get the fuel, I would like to be full on fuel. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a fucking dumbass. Who knows? But that's the way that I would look at it. So, we will see what's happening with that. From the Wall Street Journal, talking about the jobs market. U.S. job openings reach record as hiring slows. Available positions are increasing in warehouses, factories, and restaurants, pointing to a shortage in available labor. From Eric Morath. Yes, of course, we're going to try to make this happen because we want to say that it's not the job makers' fault. It's not the Biden economy. It's the Biden economy at this point. Job openings reached a record level of 8.1 million at the end of March, reflecting a widening gap between the open positions and workers willing to and able to take the jobs. Available jobs rose by a seasonally adjusted 600,000 in March to exceed the prior record of 70.6 million, set in November of 2018, the Labor Department said Tuesday. Data from job search site Indeed.com separately showed job postings continued to rise in April, ending the month 24% higher than February's 2020 pre-pandemic level. The Labor Department said the highest rate of open jobs was in the South, while the strongest growth in openings was in the Northeast. Government and private data showed increasing openings in construction, manufacturing, and hospitality. But nobody wants to go to work. The growth in available jobs has come as hiring cooled to a seasonally adjusted 266,000 in April, from a gain of 770,000 in the prior month, the Labor Department said last week. Employers are looking to hire, but temporary factors are making people a little hesitant to take jobs, said Nick Bunker, an economist at Indeed.com. The growing number of available jobs shows how difficult it is to turn openings into hires. The Labor Department's job openings data dates back to 2000. The rate of openings, or available jobs, as a share of filled and unfilled positions, was also a record at 5.3% in March. That is above the pre-pandemic peak of 4.8% in late 2018, when the unemployment rate approached a 50-year low. So it does look like the jobs are out there. That was one of the things that we discussed on Monday night. It definitely looks like the jobs are out there, but nobody's going and getting them. Nobody's going for them. Because, and we've talked about this before, why would you go and get a job, spend all that money going back and forth to work, and sometimes it gets expensive to go back and forth to work. I've been there. When you can sit home and get paid more. Spend time with your kids. Spend time with your kids on the Zoom class. Why would you go look? And there's no requirement for you to look right now in most places. I know Biden talked about changing that, but there's no requirement for it. Speaking of the House Plant in Chief, from the Daily Mail, Joe Biden picks former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel as U.S. Ambassador to Japan. From AFP and Caitlin Corral. Oh, this is eye aids, you guys. Joe Biden is tapping Rahm Emanuel, who served as Chief of Staff to Barack Hussein O, as U.S. Ambassador to Japan, a Financial Times report revealed on Tuesday. Ambassador to Japan is one of the most important diplomatic postings, as Tokyo serves as one of Washington's most important allies, highlighted when Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga was the first foreign leader President Biden received at the White House. There was speculation Emanuel, the 61-year-old former mayor of Chicago, would become envoy to China. However, multiple sources familiar with the Biden team discussions, according to the Financial Times report, said the job's expected to go to former top U.S. diplomat Nick Burns. And that's all they have to say about that. Yeah, I don't know if I would throw Rahm Emanuel out to any of these countries, especially Asia. Like, this is a guy, well, I guess he was mayor of Chicago, so he's got the idea of, being the strong man like Trump was, but even still. He's cowered to the police unions. He's cowered to every other union in his fucking city. And I don't think that he's a good fit for Asia. Now, like, if he wanted to go and be the ambassador to Switzerland, hey, have at it. But putting this guy in Asia, I don't think is going to go over real well. I don't think it's going to go over real well at all. But I guess we'll see where it goes. From Politico. Maybe. There it goes. Come on, old girl. I'm going to hold on a little bit more. Stefanik faces first public house conservative foe in her push to replace Cheney. From Olivia Beavers. Elise Stefanik on Tuesday faced her first formal pushback from a conservative colleague on her apparent glide path to the House GOP's number 3 leadership spot after Liz Cheney's expected ouster for the role. Representative Chip Roy, a member of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus. The ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus Sent a memo to every Republican office in the chamber arguing that Stefanik should not be serving leadership, but Roy hardly embraced Cheney's continued presence atop the conference, also asserting that the Wyoming Republican no longer deserves to be conference chair. Despite multiple Freedom Caucus members privately expressing reluctance, if not outright opposition, to Stefanik over concerns about the New Yorker's past moderate record, Roy is one of only a few House conservatives to take his criticism public. He focused his case against Stefanik on past votes that he contended should disqualify her from leading the conference on messaging. We must avoid putting in charge Republicans who campaign as Republicans but then vote for and advance the Democrats' agenda once sworn in. That is, that we do not make the same mistake that we did in 2017, Roy wrote in his memo, which was first obtained by Politico. Roy also warned about the speedy effort by House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and other GOP leaders to whip rank-and-file members for Stefanik even before Cheney is voted out of the number 3 role. Therefore, with all respect to my friend Elise Stefanik, let us contemplate the message Republican leadership is about to send to by rushing to coronate a spokesperson whose voting record embodies much of what led to the 2018 ass-kicking we received by Democrats, Roy wrote. What ass-kicking? That wasn't a blowout. That wasn't a blue wave. That wasn't an ass-kicking. It was unfortunate, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't an ass-kicking. It was more like a little fucking piddly slap in the face. That wasn't an ass-kicking. That was some Frenchman wearing a lot of makeup, took off his white glove, and said, "Ha ha!" That's what that was. That wasn't an ass-kicking. Although I do understand the concerns about Stefanik as well, given where she comes from in Staten Island. Now, I don't know anything about Elise Stefanik, and I should probably research a little bit more about her, but I do anticipate the fact that being a Republican in Staten Island, and you guys remember last week when we talked about this for the first time, and I asked Quest where she was from, because I knew she was from the city, and he said that she was from Staten Island, and I was very surprised that a Republican could be elected in Staten Island. So I do have to wonder if it's like a reverse Manchin situation, where a Democrat who continues to hold office in a very, very conservative state is still voting to hold up the conservative line, hold up the filibuster, and not follow lockstep in with Nancy Pelosi. And I'm curious if Stefanik is the same way, knowing that if she does pull the full GOP line, then she won't get a single vote out of Staten Island. So that's a possibility. And yeah, if we're going to be doing Democrat light, if that's the case, and I don't know if that's the case or not, but if we're going to just keep doing Democrat light, War Pig, let's do whatever the fuck the Democrats want, in spite of the R next to our names, then why not? Why don't we just stick with War Pig fucking Liz Cheney? So, I guess we'll see what happens with that. A little bit more Liz Cheney stuff. Frank Luntz tweets out, "These words should not be considered even slightly controversial." Let's have a listen.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank very much my friend, colleague, Mr. Buck, for yielding me time this evening. I know the topic, Mr. Speaker, is cancel culture. I have some thoughts about that. But tonight, I rise to discuss freedom and our constitutional duty to protect it. Mr. Speaker, I have been privileged to see firsthand how powerful and how fragile freedom is. 28 years ago, I stood outside a polling place, a schoolhouse in Western Kenya. Soldiers had chased away people who were lined up to vote. A few hours later, they came streaming back in, risking further attack, undaunted in their determination to exercise their right to vote. In 1992, I sat across a table from a young mayor in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, and I listened to him talk of his dream of liberating his nation from communism. Years later, for his dedication...
Okay, I don't want to listen to this woman lie for 6 minutes. I didn't realize this was such a long clip. But her tweet that goes with it is, "Freedom only survives as we protect it. We must speak the truth. The election was not stolen. America has not failed." You're right. Most popular election in history. Nothing bad happened in the 2020 election. It was completely above board. Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. Everybody loves him. And he does everything perfectly. Everybody loves him. Everybody will continue to love him. Honk, honk, wink, honk, honk, honk. All right, one more Cheney one from CNN. And I got just a couple more stories, and then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head out of here. Cheney shames colleagues who will purge her for disloyalty to Trump. This is an op-ed from Stephen Collinson. Liz Cheney won't move on and stop speaking about the threat to American democracy posed by Donald Trump for a simple reason. It hasn't gone away. In a short, powerful speech late Tuesday, the lawmaker from Wyoming shamed colleagues who will vote on Wednesday to strip her of her number 3 House GOP leadership post, showing the guts to speak truth to the ex-president's malevolent power that most Republicans lack. History will likely remember her remarks for far longer than the tortured explanations of Republican power brokers like Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California as to why she must be purged after pointing out Trump's lies and dangerous authoritarianism. Yes, dangerous authoritarianism. He got completely fairly voted out, honk, wink, wink, and he stepped aside. Yes, that's dangerously authoritarian. In fact, it's so authoritarian that the entire mall has to be still locked down, by the way. The fences are still there. That the mall has to be fucking locked down. Security in the chambers. And you're not even allowed to question the election on major avenues, which you wouldn't want to question anyway because nothing bad happened. Honk, honk. Wink, wink. And this is CNN holding on to another fucking war pig. Another disgusting, fucking war-loving, war hawk, Cheney asshole. Get rid of this bitch. And if she wants to go form a third party, then she can get her shit shoved in over there, too. And, you know, like we said on the Red Net Show over the weekend, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of the week, like we talked about with that, and Styx has talked about this too. Do you think these people, like Stephen Collinson, want a strong Republican Party? No. They want these war hawks that'll dance and fucking court jester for Democrats in the House. Yes, we will do what you say, and we'll just slow down your progressivism. That's what they want. They don't want a good, strong Republican leader, a good, strong Republican opposition. Why do you think they're all in for this fucking woman? All right. Let's talk a little bit about Minneapolis. From KARE 11. Community demands answers after another violent weekend in Minneapolis. Homicides in 2021 are double the amount reported at the same time last year. From Danny Spiewak. KG Wilson, rather, admits she's worn down. I haven't stopped crying since day one of 2021, the longtime Twin Cities peace activist said. It has not stopped. It has not stopped. It has been continuous. Wilson said he's devastated by the citywide increases in violence this year, including another homicide and half dozen injuries from shootings this weekend that led to 2 arrests. Hit me up, you Minnesota people. Wisconsin's right here. And I know where the best houses are. Hit me up. I will find you a house. Come on over. Minneapolis police have investigated 26 homicides so far in 2021, double that amount at this time in 2020. 13 homicides, and almost quadruple the level homicides at this time in 2019, 7. Let's have a listen to what KG Wilson had to say.
I'm on the news years later, still talking about the same thing that existed in 2000. In 2021, we're still talking about what are we gonna do. And we've had a different mayor since 2000, different police chief, we had different councilmen. Only thing changed is the politics, the people in the offices. But the same thing exists in the community, and families are still grieving their children. I'm on the news years later.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same, and it's one of these things. I mean, that might have been a light bulb for anybody else here. I know that most of the audience doesn't know what goes on in Minneapolis because it's in Minnesota, but it is. It's another one of these big cities. Chicago's the same way, for those of you who are more familiar with that. Democrat rule for generations. Nobody else able to come in, nobody else able to break. Yeah, we get a different Democrat every few years, but for the most part, it's constant Democrat rule for generations upon generations. And the stuff just keeps happening and getting arguably worse. Now, some of that is the catalyst because of what the news media did for St. George and people coming in from outside of the community to also come back and protest for St. George. Coupled with the fact that, I mean, if you were a cop, why the fuck would you go into these neighborhoods? Tim Pool has said it. Sticks has said it. I've said it. Just stop going. They don't want you there. Stop going. Don't answer the call. Why would you answer a call when, for God's sakes, you could make a clean shot with nobody else getting injured to stop a woman who is in mid-knife swing? And LeBron James will come out and say that you're next and you're going to go down for fucking murder. Luke, will you talk to me after the show? Why would you go into these neighborhoods? They don't want you there. Let them stew in their own filth. Don't go there. 911 calls for help. Yes, please help us. There's a violent riot coming outside my... Yeah, no. Maybe next time. I'm sorry, that's what you need to do. It is horrifying. It's horrible that we've descended to this level in this country, but it is what we need to do at this point. It's time. Don't go to these neighborhoods. Don't live in these neighborhoods. Get out of the neighborhoods if you can. I know, I understand that it's less expensive to do so. Trust me, I lived in the ghetto for 5 years. On rent. For a house with a yard. A 2-bedroom for $600. Less than what no, it wasn't 600. It was $5.50. $550 for a 2-bedroom with a house in Kenosha because nobody else would go live in that neighborhood. And the landlords wouldn't take Section 8. If they took Section 8, that'd probably get like 5 times that amount for that same place. But because they wouldn't take Section 8, $550 a month. That's less than I'm paying now, and it was twice the area. I understand that it's less expensive to live in these neighborhoods. I get it. I did it for years. But they don't want you there, and they don't want the police there either. So I don't want the police there, but I can defend myself. But the police, yeah, just stop going into these neighborhoods. Stop. Don't do it anymore. All right. I got one more here for you. Then we'll head on out of here. So we'll watch the video and then we'll read a little bit from the Smithsonian about it. But Breaking 911 says, watch, new 25-foot tall statue unveiled in Rockefeller Center. The video was playing and spoiled the surprise, but we'll start it back from the beginning anyway, because why the hell not? That is like every stereotype ever you could possibly have for African art. And they paid good money for this thing, too, to have it up in Rockefeller Center. There's the side view. The side view just makes it worse. Like, who commissioned this? The Daily fucking Stormer? Seriously. Alright, let's read about this thing. And then we'll head on out of here. We'll do something I'm thankful for, and then we'll head on out of here. From Smithsonian Magazine. This monumental oracle statue in New York City subverts traditional sculpture. Part of an ongoing exhibition at Rockefeller Center, Sanford Bigger's newest installation challenges the tropes of classical artwork. from Nora McGreevy. References to classical mythology abound in and around Rockefeller Center, an iconic Art Deco complex in New York City. The space boasts a gilded bronze statue of the Titan Prometheus, a 1930s relief of the fearsome Zeus that adorns 30 Rockefeller Plaza entrance, and a statue of an overburdened Atlas that looms over Fifth Avenue. Through June 29th, members of the public can visit and eventually interact with another monumental addition to the Manhattan landmark, artist Sanford Biggers' Oracle. 25-foot tall, 15,280-pound bronze sculpture unveiled last week. The work depicts a person or deity with an enormous head who sits majestically on a throne in front of Rockefeller Center's Fifth Avenue entrance. Oracle is the latest entry in Biggers' Chimera series, which merges European statues and African masks in an interrogation of sculptural art's history and power, reports Sarah Cascone. For ArtNet News, the work is Biggers' largest-scale Chimera commission to date, notes a statement from exhibition co-organizer Art Production Fund. As Biggers tells ArtNet News, he drew inspiration from the ancient Greek temple of Zeus and African religious art, especially that of Luba and Maasai cultures. Per the statement, the artist was also intrigued by the ongoing scholarly conversations about the whitewashing of European sculptural history and blackwashing of African sculpture, and there it is. In a separate statement from the Marianne Buskey Gallery, Biggers points out that Westerners stripped hundreds of African objects of all material adornment and any ritual cultural residue during the early 20th century. So, I mean, it's not the worst statue I've ever seen, but it's not the best. It does look a little bit cheap and chintzy and a little bit, I don't know, a little bit too in your face for it. It looks like a stereotype African American cartoon, holding a cheap knockoff of the Liberty Torch. And honestly, if I lived in that area, which I think that's just a commercial district anyway, that would give me nightmares. That would give me absolute nightmares to see. But apparently the people in Rockefeller Center liked it, and they're the ones that paid for it, so I really don't have a lot of place to complain because it's very, very unlikely that I will ever be in New York City in my life. It might happen, but every day, especially as the protests and everything else get worse and worse, and fewer people, police patrol the streets, my odds of going into New York City go down every single day. They're probably at about 20% at this point. At the beginning of the St. George riots, they were probably at 25%. They're probably down to 20% at this point. So, well, I hope they enjoy that. And that's going to be it for the day. So, let's do something that I'm thankful for and head out of here for the day. So, I'm just looking at some of the stuff here. The Israeli attacks and the civil war that's coming back out of this. And the gas shortages on top of this too. I am thankful for where I live and where I've chosen to lay down roots. I've debated right now maybe doing some part-time stuff down in Florida, like part of the year going down there just because of where I want to go in my career, or at least my temporary career, while I sit here to try and get the website back off. But I've debated doing some stuff down, maybe going selling some houses in Florida and whatnot. But I look back and, what would I be doing? Well, obviously I wouldn't be in Florida right now if that was what I would be doing. I would be nestled up in Wisconsin because it's warm and people are buying houses up here. But if I went down there, what would I be doing right now if I was down there? I'd be sitting there with an empty 33-gallon tank on an F-150, wondering what to do about it. Because 1,000 gas stations are out of gas. I'd be sitting on nothing right now wondering, okay, can I get on a plane and come back? Can I get my truck and come back? Can I do anything and come back right now? Is there going to be fuel the next day? And none of that stuff actually hit here for the most part. The Midwest, especially out in the country, like where I live, is relatively insulated from a lot of the stuff. And it's the same thing with a protest. Now, I can go and seek that out and Kenosha's not that far away. Milwaukee's not that far away. So if I need to go check something out for a newsworthy event, I have the ability to do so. But I love where I live, and I love the fact that it's insulated, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I've got the good work ethic as well, and I've taken the time over the last year to make sure that I know how to grow food, because that's going to start coming up on short supply and get really expensive. So I know how to grow food. I know how to grow other crops for pest control. I know how to generate electricity. If that comes down to it, I can build a fire. All the stuff that people need to know, and all you guys should know it too. So if you don't know how to do that stuff, take some time, learn how to do it, because otherwise you are dependent on the supply chain. And everything you should be doing should be trying to get yourself away from the supply chain as much as you can. And that's what I'm thankful for. And it also restores my faith in humanity that there are so many people who are moving out of these big city areas and coming out to the rural areas to learn how to homestead or make their own way as well. Just leave your boating where you were. That's the only thing I ask. That restores my faith in humanity. That's what I'm thankful for, and we're going to head on out of here. So let's throw some music up and let's do this. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted, including a detractor that I had at the beginning of the show. It's always Twitch. Trust me, every single time it's always Twitch. But he's welcome here too. You guys didn't kick him, so he ran his mouth and he made his opinions known, and we can go back and talk about him as well. We'll be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Probably talking a lot more about Israel as well. That was like half the show, so hope to see you guys here tomorrow for more of that. Otherwise, we'll see you probably on Monday for more Contemporary and the Red Net Show as well. Come back and join me again for more of that. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.